Good afternoon, my friends. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications so I can be with you forever. So today, I'm going to be talking about a subject that is a little bit controversial, especially in current times, but it's a subject that needs to be brought up, especially for predominantly the young men in the world, but also for the women who are watching this as well, to maybe get a little bit more perspective on this side of the the gender division, whatever you want to call it. That's the issue with incels. And incels are generally a group of people. If you don't know what that is, obviously you should know what that is if you're watching this video. But for clarification, an incel is a shortened term known as involuntary celibate, which is basically a guy who believes that all women are out to get men, and if you are ugly or undesirable in any way, that you will never find a relationship or sex or anything related to that whatsoever. And I'm here to cast some insight onto it because it's not a physical setback, which, as much as people who are into that mindset like to think, there is a certain level of physicalness that plays into it. But judging from people who have identified themselves as incels and having spoken to them and seeing actually what they look like, they are generally not unattractive people. They're usually average or even above average in many cases. So the reality is that this issue of them thinking that women are out to get them, or that they're basically cursed for all of eternity to be basically denied of any relationship or sexual experience, is completely a mental and spiritual block on top of that. So I'm going to get into 5 sort of steps in order to break free from that mindset. And that basically starts with number 1 is stop following these posts. Stop following red pill men going their own way. Stop following all this stupid shit that exists out there. If you're caught up in that trap of constantly ingesting that information, whether you're doing it ironically or research or curiosity, the way the internet is set up, especially how algorithms are set up, is that it's going to consistently replicate that kind of content into your life. So if you're on YouTube, for instance, and you clicked on like a red pill like coach video or some shit like that, you're going to be bombarded with the exact same shit on your discover feed. So that happened to me, and it was really annoying because I'm trying to get out of that mindset, and I clicked on it one night just, out of curiosity, like, what the hell is this? What's this video? What's he talking about? Until I watched through the video and realized it was one of this, rational male video things that I don't identify with. But because I watched it, I just kept getting bombarded with more and more videos like that. And when, if you're single and you've been, treated poorly by people in the past, specifically romantically with women, you're vulnerable to that kind of thing. And if you're feeling alone and lonely and you need people to reach out, that's the problem with this entire community, is that it's openly accepting to people who are self-deprecating and hate themselves, and they will encourage all of that. And if you try to uplift people and try to better their lives or try to help them, move past all of this stuff, you're basically looked down upon because you're not woke, basically. So if you're trying to get out of that mindset and you're trying to actually achieve happiness, the last thing you should be doing is consistently watching these red pill videos, people like Jordan Peterson or, whoever, all these men health coaches that you're watching. In a way, they can help you sort of get back in touch with your masculinity and sort of learn to cope with the damage that might have been done to you to make you think that you need to hate yourself because of the fact that you were born a specific gender. But then on top of that, you have to kind of move on and see the bigger picture of things and not get attached to your masculinity or your testosterone or, just all this other shit that's kind of, it's derivative of where you actually want to go with your life. So number two I would put on this list is, it's basic also, is just stop hating women. Even if you're in a situation where you think that you can't date or whatever, when you're into that mindset of blaming women for all your problems, regardless of if you have been, mentally abused or whatnot. I've personally been gaslighted. I've been, treated like shit. I've been, dating girls for months and then just getting ghosted, and then, just like a lot of shitty behavior. And, holding on to resentments from my dating history doesn't help me move forward. It doesn't help me be happy. It doesn't help me attain a sense of self and a sense of being in any way. It also is not going to help me get what I want anyway, which might be a relationship with someone. So if you're caught into that mindset of, hating women, which is easy to get into that, especially if you're engaging with these people who are constantly talking about that stuff and blaming feminism for all their problems and blaming women on the internet for saying stupid shit and then getting mad at it. It's like, okay, there may be situations where you might be in the right, but even then it's like move on with your life and better your life in a way where you're not consumed by that. Because if you're consumed by it, then they're the ones who are winning ultimately in the end, and you shouldn't even be thinking about that. You should just solely focus on yourself and what you want to achieve for yourself and for your own happiness, not depending on other people and what other people do, especially women. And this goes for men as well. And for women who hate men who are, incels, I see a lot of women hating on incels, and it's like, okay, it's the same exact reasoning why you're doing this. The women have been treated like shit by men in the past, and they feel the need to hate other incels who are, it's a mirror effect. That's what the real issue is, and where the real root of the problem is that it's men and women basically projecting their past issues onto each other, and it's just creating this cycle, this never-ending cycle of pettiness and treating each other like shit and just releasing unnecessary baggage onto other people. And when you're hating women in that sense, if you get into the dating world in any way, or you go on a few dates, you're going to unleash that baggage onto that person, and then it's going to continue the cycle of them treating other men like shit. So the main thing is to get out of that cycle. If you really want to be woke and take the red pill, so to speak, it's getting out of the mindset of, getting back at someone's gender or whatever, and that's basically what this whole thing is rooted in. And it's like this revenge story where it's like, women treated me like shit, I'm gonna treat my next girl that I date like shit, or I'm gonna treat this girl I meet on the street like shit, and guess what, she's gonna feel like, oh, fucking men, they're all the same, I'm gonna treat this next guy that I date like shit, and I'm gonna ghost him, and then that guy's gonna get ghosted, and he's gonna treat, it's this never-ending cycle. So if you really want to fix things and change reality and shift the reality mindset, is take yourself out of this equation of revenge and pettiness and hatred and all of it, because it's a never-ending cycle, like I said. So this is going to go into the third point, which is more focused towards men specifically, but it can apply to women who might have this issue. But generally, I don't find women having an issue, and that's basically porn. So I've wanted to talk about this on my YouTube channel, but honestly, it's still a problem for me to deal with. It's not something that I've completely cleared out of my life. It's very much something that's still present and is an issue and still holds me back. And, this is the one thing that I would say, if you want to achieve happiness and actually better yourself, is to seriously cut down or eliminate porn completely. You don't have to go on NoFap or any of that. I think it's kind of stupid the way it's being set up right now, especially it's just kind of like a bunch of bros, trying to prove to each other how long they can last, which is kind of missing the whole point of it, which is basically aligning with your sexuality and healing yourself in that way. Because what people don't realize is that men are very sexually repressed, in the sense that they are sexually wounded. That's why you have a lot of, aggressive men preying upon women. That's why you have a lot of men doing unsolicited sexual acts on the internet, whether that's hitting up girls in their DMs and sending dick pics or just being, creepy in general. And that comes down to the fact that, male sexuality hasn't really been looked at in a proper light, especially from a young age. When you learn sex education, predominantly if you go to a general school, you're going to have a sex ed teacher tell you that porn is okay, porn is good, masturbation is normal, you should do it as much as you can. That's what I've been told, which is a counter from, the strict Catholic, religious sect of don't do it, don't ever do it, don't ever express yourself sexually, don't do anything, which is, you're going from completely repressing your sexual energy to just doing whatever the fuck you want and just indulging in everything. And what porn is it's actually like a hyper stimulant. So on top of that, it's going to create unrealistic expectations and standards for women that you want. You're going to want and desire women who are essentially really attractive and completely out of your league. So if you are a person that's not generally that attractive, average attraction or below average, when you engage in porn, you're actually, there's a two-sided flip to this. You're increasing your standards that are unreasonably unrealistic, and then you're also limiting your own attractiveness because you're essentially wasting your energy and your life vitality, whatever you want to call it, on porn. And you should be cultivating this energy as much as you can. And some people are more sexually driven than others, and when you utilize that energy in a more productive way, you can actually better your life for yourself. And all of a sudden this need to have sex and to have a relationship kind of becomes irrelevant. And when you level up in that sense, having a relationship doesn't really need to exist for you because you're channeling that energy into more productive means. Now, this is a lot of stuff that I know, knowledge based, but it's not something I have fully developed in and know about because I can't actually get there personally. It's something I'm still struggling with myself, which is, I would say, a reasoning why I still have a lot of issues with relationships and specifically picking women that are right for me. And, I've had to go through a lot of shitty people because they take advantage of me because of, my drive and what I want to bring to the table, basically. So yeah, that's kind of where the root of it all is your sexual energy and how it's being depleted, basically. And that's due to the internet and how we haven't really assessed the ethics and assessed the mode of conduct on the internet and how to engage in it. And I think what people are starting to realize is that women are way more powerful on the internet than they are in real life. In real life, for historical reasons, men have always held the power just because of our physical strength and physical size. So we managed to dominate the area in the physical world. But now that the internet has come in, this is a place of mental activity. This is a place of mental strength and mental vision and emotional expression as well. And this is a place where men are more at whim to whatever women want to put out, and women realize they are a lot more powerful on the internet, especially sexually, because they can sell their bodies for money without the risk of STDs and physical assault in any way, shape, or form. And men are more susceptible to engaging in sexual deviancy because they there's no limits to what they can get, what they can receive. There's no backlash or anything, but at the same time they have no real way to assert themselves in a dominant sense, which they shouldn't really do anyway. You shouldn't ever dominate women without their permission, obviously. But this is a case where the physical strength and the physical aspects of what makes masculinity becomes irrelevant once you get onto the internet, because that's a place where really it's all about your emotional expression. It's all about your intellectual capacity. It's all about your creativity. And women have a lot more strength in that realm when it comes to the internet, and especially the fact that they can use their bodies for porn. And that's why you will find, the sex sells routine is very much adamant on social media, where women generally can become a lot more popular just by showing off their sexy bodies, and guys will constantly go on there, and some of them will pay a lot of money to see them, so they can make a lot of money that way too, which is we're gonna have to see this play out because this is such a recent phenomenon, the cam girl phenomenon. I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but it's interesting to see where this is going to develop like 10-20 years from now, and what these cam girls, what the long-term effects of this sort of lifestyle will be for these cam girls, and how they will will they be happy in the long term? Will they seek fulfillment from this lifestyle? Is kind of up in the air at the moment. And men basically need to take back their control of their sexuality, because right now the internet is hitting men where they're weakest, and that's their sexuality. Where, if in the physical world prostitution is illegal, there's a lot of restrictions in terms of how you can express yourself sexually. Like, you can't just go up to any girl and like start jacking off on her. Obviously, if you did that in real life, that would be fucked up. But on the internet, you can go to any girl you want on the internet and stalk her photos and jack off all the same, and it's kind of more socially acceptable to do nowadays. So this is kind of going off topic of the incel thing, but that's all related, because once you engage in that kind of sexual deviancy, you're actually cultivating a mindset that, sex isn't for me, relationships aren't for me. What is for me is whatever I'm doing right now, which is jacking off to porn. And that's what you're sort of manifesting in general. So, and on top of that, there's a lot of like these incels that just want sex so badly, and they might be virgins in general. And I can tell you that, the real reason to get into a relationship is for the spiritual and emotional connection. If you're just doing it for the sexual gratification, I can say with full clarification that you'll be more sexually satisfied just watching porn or buying a prostitute than you would being in a relationship. Because when you're in a relationship and it's purely sexually gratifying, you're just going to get sick of the sex that you're having with that girl. And that's just a constant. That's an evolutionary biological process that, men need to constantly find new mates to procreate with, right? So, that's where the sexual deviancy originates from. So, so like if you want to satisfy your sexual desires, just recognize that you're basically going to be more sexually gratified just by going and watching porn. Like, literally, it's like when I first had sex, I couldn't even get a hard on because I was so trapped in the porn thing, that porn was actually more sexually stimulating for me, and it took a little bit more time for me to actually like heal that part of my brain and actually move forward from that. But yeah, so like if you really are just getting into this because you want to like sexually gratify, and you just want to fuck girls because you want to like achieve an alpha male status, like if you want to be sexually gratified, just become a porn addict and you'll be fine. So this is number 4 here, is to develop your spirituality. And it doesn't matter if you're an atheist or whatever, you have to recognize that there is a load of possibility in the world and in the universe that no one really fully understands. And to be ignorant of that is to limit yourself and limit your potential to actually better yourself. When you get in line with a spiritual practice like meditation or prayer, you are reinforcing something in your mind and in your subconscious to actually better yourself and to become a better person. And that's the main goal of like not being an incel, is that when you're an incel, you're basically self-gratifying yourself that you are a victim, and you're victimizing yourself to the point where you actually get a gratification from being a loser, right? And no one wants to be that deep down ultimately, but your ego is making you feel that way because it's easy and it's convenient, and it makes it easier for you to not take responsibility. When you develop a spiritual mindset, you start to realize that you do have a responsibility. You are under the law of karma, of cause and effect. You are being judged for what you do based off of the universe. Whatever you do in this world is going to come back to you. So once you develop your spirituality and your meditation routine and just anything like that in general, and spirituality can come even in the form of exercise. If you've ever run long distance, you can become euphoric in that sense. You can become like sort of out of your world, and that gives you a sense of responsibility to take care of yourself, which all is all included, right? Spirituality doesn't necessarily mean you have to join a church and pray to God specifically or pray to Jesus. It's all about embedding yourself and sort of recognizing your higher self, right? Your higher self being the best potential you can possibly be. So, and that goes into number 5, which is improving yourself, not for the sake of getting a girlfriend or having sex, but for the fact that you'll just be happier in general. That's the main goal of why you should do this, why you should not be an incel, why you should not hate women, is not because you want to have a girl around with you. It's because you want to be happy. Whether you have a girlfriend or not is irrelevant. If you're unhappy, you're unhappy. If you're happy, you're happy. It's not going to change whether you have a girl or whether you have a lot of sex or whether you're an alpha male. These are all external gratifications that are transitory in nature. What's eternal is what's ever inside of you, your internal self and your internal self-worth, and appreciating what you do have. So there is an element that people might criticize me because I'm like physically attractive. I know that as myself. And let me tell you something, it's kind of irrelevant because I've had this mindset of lack and of hating myself that, comes across when I'm talking to women or just talking to people in general, that makes me less attractive as a person. So when I'm constantly engaging in those thought patterns, it makes me less attractive, both physically and mentally. If you see pictures of me when I was 16, 17, I was not attractive at all in the slightest. Like, I was kind of chubby, was average height, had a lot of acne. I just didn't look good. And once I started like actually improving myself mentally, it was when the physical reality started to set in and my physical attraction actually set in. And then there's also this other aspect of, if you're short or you're, average height, that women won't like you. I've met plenty of girls that don't like tall guys. Like, I literally have met girls like, I like short guys, like, you're not my type. So, that's a reality. And that's kind of setting into tone of, everyone has a type and everyone's type is different, right? Just because you meet someone and they think you're unattractive doesn't mean that everyone is going to think that way. There are people who have weird things. They have weird fetishes. They have weird kinks about them, that they like things that generally a lot of people don't. And that's kind of the beauty of this world, that you might think that you are ugly to someone else and you think that's objective, but it's really not. It's a subjective thing that some people are going to like it and some people aren't. And that's what's going to attract your mate. When you realize that if someone doesn't like you or thinks you're unattractive, it's kind of irrelevant. What is objective and what is always going to stand out is how in line and how aligned you are with your internal self and in your higher self and your spiritual self. Because if you don't have that alignment, you're just not going to be attractive in general, like ever. And you can fake it as much as you can by having a big ego, but then you're just going to be attracting partners that aren't really meant for you. You look at people like Dan Bilzerian, who is living a very egotistical, transient lifestyle. Is he really making really deep connections with all these hot girls that he posts with on Instagram? Hell no. If he didn't have any money, none of them would stick with him. If he suffered an injury, none of them would stick with him. They're all there for the money. They're all there for the show. They're all there for the ego. And you can build that up if you want, and you're going to get those things. If you work out and get really buff and you make a lot of money. But at the end of the day, the goal isn't to just get things, to get external pleasures. The goal is to become aligned with yourself internally and become your best self in terms of happiness. I forget who it was, but there was a sign. I think it was Isaac Newton, who actually was a virgin until death. If it wasn't Isaac Newton, it was someone else, but around that same era. And you can look at this person and think like, oh, what a sad life he lived. He never got to experience sex or a relationship. But you know what? To him, it didn't really matter. He was so absorbed in his work and what made him happy that having a relationship, having sex was irrelevant. Look at Buddhist monks. Look at all these people that lived a life of celibacy. Not any of them are unhappy. If you want to like claim the sense of involuntarily celibate, then be celibate then, if that's what you really believe in, and then just let go of involuntary and become voluntarily celibate, and then you'll become happy in general. There's plenty of people who have lots of sex who are fucking miserable. There's plenty of people who are chads, and they are the most miserable people you will meet. So if you want to get out of this mindset and you actually care about yourself, number one, stop hanging out with people who are going to bring you down and who are encourage your downfall as a human being, because that's not fair to you. It's not fair to anybody. And don't engage in pettiness. Don't engage with hating women. Don't engage with hating people just because of their gender. You can't blame groups of people like that. It's not healthy for anyone. It's just deviant. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your energy. You're not going to find happiness in that mindset. So I hope this helps some people. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and share to all your friends and family and whoever. And I'll see you next time.